Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to the continuation of the MCU Rewatch. If you're unfamiliar what this is, it's basically going back and rewatching the MCU movie thus far. I rewatched Black Panther. Now really quickly, I'll talk about this before, because I talked a little bit about Black Panther, just a tiny bit when I originally watched it. I ended up watching the movie like a week after it came out, because my sister was going with my nieces and one of their friends, and she was like, oh, did I want to go? And I was like, sure, I was going to watch it anyway, but usually, you know, I don't really go too much to the theater, so usually most things I end up rewatching are usually like after they left theaters. Nevertheless, that's kind of beside the point, but nevertheless, because we were there like a week after it came out, it was still, you know, a lot of people in the theater, so by the time we got there, our seats were like, you know, second in the front row, because that's all that was really kind of available at the time, which is no one's fault. It's just kind of, but I think I'm glad to rewatch the movie a second time through, just because I get a better viewpoint of it this time. And so I feel like I notice a lot of things, like things kind of pop a little bit more, especially in certain environments like the ancestral plane. You feel like it really pops, especially at nighttime. I do appreciate that you do kind of get to see it from two different points of view. I wonder what did, well, it was probably nighttime at the time. Yeah, it was nighttime when T'Challa originally went there, so I was like, I was wondering, it's like, oh, what determines whether it's night or day in the ancestral plane? I would love to have seen that kind of night more often, just because like I wish it'd be kind of neat to have like an eternal night, but I guess it's like I said, it's reflective of like the, I guess, living plane, I guess is how you would refer to just like the regular world. But nevertheless, I also feel like I noticed the music a lot more. Like I noticed it the first time through, but I think the second time listening through, I'm like, yeah, this is probably like the only other Marvel movie, like, not saying they've never had good music, it's just like I feel like I never really noticed them except for like the Guardians movies, because they particularly, like, the music, it plays a part in the story, because it's just like about, like, you know, Peter's whole thing, you know, so it's like, and plus it's like music, you know, like it's kind of old school music that you can't help but like anyway, so it has this nostalgic feeling that you can't help but listen a lot to anyway. But it's just good samples of music they use anyway, but I think this one just kind of like, you can't help but kind of like move to the beat and stuff like that with a lot of the songs, so it has good music, and it's something I want to talk about. A lot of things interesting rewatching this through. For one, apparently this takes place like a week after Civil War, which is crazy to me, because like when T'Challa's like, I think I missed that detail when I originally saw the movie. I was like, which kind of further proves the point, like, man, the MCU timeline is not what I think it is. It is like legitimately all over the place, and that is crazy to me. Once again, maybe that's just because he was watching like a recording that we'll talk about, but it's like, that was, I don't know, like I doubt it was like him watching a recording of a news program. It had to be like super fresh. It's just kind of interesting to me that, because once again, it's like between this and Civil War, there was like a little less than 2-year period, you know, in between. But, you know, like I said, I thought they got calculated in the movies, which it technically does, because they use, like, once again, using Thor Ragnarok, for example. It's like, oh yeah, it's been 2 years since Age of Ultron, which it had been, but like I said, they fiddle with the timeline, so like I said, things probably don't go the way you think they did. I mean, to be fair, the timeline-wise, even though this movie's coming out 2018, who's to say it didn't take place before the events of even Thor Ragnarok, you know? It's like, we're dealing with other worlds and different planes. It's like, time probably works very differently on Asgard than it does on Earth. Potentially, maybe not. Who knows? I mean, maybe someone else does know, because it's probably come up before, but nevertheless. I think they do a very good job, for one, obviously showing off just the tech of Wakanda and what they're capable of doing. And once again, and I've said this before in the thoughts and theories, like, you cannot underestimate Yuri. She's so freaking smart. It's like, she's literally she's the one that oversees the technology of an entire nation. That is not to be underestimated. I even talked about it at one point in time. She's probably smarter than Tony, I would estimate. I would go as far as saying she's probably, if not the smartest person in the MCU. At least, I don't know, just being able to oversee that much. Oh yeah, Tony oversees a company, sure, that's fine. And Danny is like, no. Well, at one point in time he did, because Pepper's the one that kind of runs Stark Industries now. But nevertheless, like, she runs an entire country, like, at least tech-wise, and she's always coming up with stuff. Even she says herself, just because something works once doesn't mean it can't be worked upon. So she's got a very different work ethic than Tony, I feel like. Well, they kind of borderline the same, but still, you know, the story overall, I feel like even going through, after having rewatched everything up to this point, like even like Civil War being fresher in my mind, it's so interesting to see this story, rewatch it now that Civil War is fresher in my mind, as well as the rest of the MCU, because it's a revenge story. But it's like interesting when you think about it, because if if Killmonger was any other story, he'd probably be considered an anti-hero because it's like, oh, my dad was killed, so I'm getting revenge. I'm getting what's rightfully mine. It's like, yeah, you can make the argument. And that's something I talked about at that time too, and that's something I felt like a lot of people comment on. It's like, you kind of side with him. You don't agree with the way he went about things, but you can understand. Like I said, if this was a different story, he would be the anti-hero of it because you're like, oh, he's getting revenge for the people that killed his family. Like, you usually root for heroes like that. That's like some Punisher level stuff, and it's like you always root for the Punisher and those type of things, but it's just because it's like on the other side of things, it's like we have our hero, the Black Panther. It's not even T'Challa's fault. It's something his dad did. It's something his dad kept secret from not just him, but from everyone in Wakanda, just because for him, it's like, it was his greatest shame. That's why he never brought Killmonger to Wakanda, just because it would be admitting what he did. But at the same time, for T'Challa, it's like, no matter what the case of me have been, you did that. You left that boy alone, and it's because of that you literally created the problem that we're currently in right now. You know, you created a bigger monster by doing what you did, which is like understandable too, because it's the crazy thing about Killmonger and his dad too, is like you understand why they did what they did, because they kind of sided with kind of what Nakia wanted. Nakia, she wanted things to kind of be more like, we help people. For them, they wanted specifically to arm everyone that's ever been oppressed and to break free, because it's like, oh, we had the resources and everyone else, these different people are being oppressed. Let's get them to kill the people that are oppressing them, which is like, that's not the best way to handle things, but Wakanda's always handled things by keeping everything kind of in-house, not really worrying about everybody else's situation. But in this situation, it's kind of like they're both at fault in a sense, because even Killmonger says the thing of like, we'll kill those who would stand against us and their children too. It's like, you literally would be creating the same problem that created you. You don't see like the endless cycle there. You go off and do that and you'll create another Killmonger. You'll create a whole bunch of Killmongers, but he didn't realize that, because for him, like, he's literally lived his entire life like dedicated to revenge. And it's kind of an interesting thing too. Kobe like wanted Claw because it's like, oh, Claw killed my dad, and he caused a lot of problems the last time he was in Wakanda. But it's like, you're siding with Killmonger, whose dad worked with Claw to make that happen. Like, don't you think that's a little hypocritical? It's just kind of interesting, because I think, and maybe that's why Killmonger did what he did, killing Claw, because it's like, well, for one, he didn't side. Well, I guess it's because one, Claw attacked his home, so that's one reason. But I think it was mainly just because he knew killing Claw would be what he needed. It's like, I guess, well, he was kind of CIA. He was very like well trained and stuff like that, so he probably got the information he needed. That's probably why he worked with Claw, because he wanted to make it a point that they knew Claw was out there drawing them out. And it's like, oh, you couldn't get Claw yourself? Well, I got Claw. I mean, let's not forget, he's the reason why Claw escaped in the first place. But then you make the argument he was with the CIA, and it's like T'Challa promised to bring him back to Wakobi, so it's like, you should have done something then, but it's a whole thing, you know? So, but I guess just because Wakobi was kind of the same ways as Killmonger did, he was so consumed by revenge. It's like, oh, you gave me what I wanted, what nobody could do. T'Challa's father couldn't do for 30 years, something T'Challa himself couldn't do. You got me my revenge for this man who killed my father. So, and I guess at the same time, that's what made him very sympathetic to Killmonger too, because it's like, your dad was wronged just like mine was, so I'm gonna help you get the revenge you needed. Even though, you know, T'Challa was like a friend of his, and I guess it didn't matter as much. Then you have like the struggle that, you know, Okoye has, that, you know, that whole conversation between her and Nakia. It was kind of almost harsh, because Nakia is kind of like, no, come with us after everything. But like, you know, for Okoye, it's like, I am the general here. My loyalty isn't just to one king. My loyalty is to Wakanda. It's like, what about you? You have no loyalty. You're a spy. You come and go and do as you please. What is your loyalty to? It's like, my loyalty is, I'm not here to serve Wakanda. I'm here to save it, you know, kind of from itself. Because going down the path they were going, kind of keeping to themselves, they would have just let the world burn around them. But the fact of the matter is, eventually, you know, even what's happening on the outside would eventually find its way to their doorstep anyway, which you can make the argument it kind of does to a certain, it's a whole thing. I'm thinking in my head, like, you know, considering Infinity War and so forth. But it's like, that kind of is kind of like an outlier situation, because that's not necessarily the outside. It's technically the outside world coming to them, but that's kind of like a whole other, that's Thanos. That's a whole nother package all on its own. But I thought that was such a, I didn't remember that line. I was like, oh man, that's kind of hurtful. But I get what you're saying, because it's like, you never stick around for this to kind of really be your home. This is my home. This is the people, like, this is what I'm served to protect. I'm this general. I have to put my feelings aside and do what's best for Wakanda, which is like, well, Killmonger wouldn't be, but at the same time, it's like her loyalty is to the throne no matter who sits on it. It is kind of crazy that they, I mean, and I think that says a lot too, because the fact is that they so, like, it's like no matter what the situation is, Killmonger was able to kind of just come in and take over like that, I think speaks a lot about like how they handle things. But to be fair, it was during ritual combat, and he had the rights to the throne and everything. So like I said, that's what makes him very different from a lot of like villains in general. And I think what makes him a good villain too is because he's a villain, like you understand what caused him to get to where he is. He's very misguided in what he wanted, but it's something that a lot of people want. Like I said, he just went him and his father had a very misguided way of going about it, because it's like, oh, we'll arm all these people with these weapons, but that would just cause more destruction. But like I said, with that situation, it's just more so like you have your mindset about how things should be run because of your upbringing, because growing up without your father, finding your father like that, he wasn't even given a proper burial, and you find out that you're a part of this world that you and your father were kind of let go from. And even when he went to kind of visit his dad after gaining the Black Panther powers, he talked about the fact is that like his dad was like, you're lost, and he's like, maybe Wakanda's the one that's lost, and they find us. And his dad's crying because his dad kind of blames himself, because it's like, I kind of it's just like with T'Challa's dad, like they both realize that they kind of put their children on these paths. It's like, I don't know, man, it's just kind of sad in the end that like, because even T'Challa, even when it was all said and done, he's like, before the ritual fight, he was like, we can find another way. And I think that's something I commented on too. It's like, I talked about this when I rewatched Civil War. It's like, it's so interesting now seeing that storyline to understand why T'Challa was the way he was. Because typically in the comic books, and I think it kind of comes up a little bit in this movie, but it's like, he's kind of very arrogant, and at least it's kind of what I've kind of known about him from the comic books, that he can be very arrogant. But I think that kind of showed the rightful way a king should, because that's also why he accepted the challenge too, because he knew everything that Killmonger was saying was true. He knew that he had been wronged, and I guess maybe to kind of punish himself and kind of punish like the throne of Wakanda and everything, he accepted the challenge because, but like I said, he wanted to find another way. Even like kind of using the example of his fight with M'Baku, I think that speaks volumes. He could have easily have killed him, but he didn't. He spared his life, which kind of helps out in the end, because like one life to save, you spared his life, so he saves your life later on. But at the same time, it's like with Killmonger, he wanted to find a different way. He didn't want things to kind of play out the way they did, because like I said, it'd just be this endless cycle if they do that. So, and speaking of M'Baku, I really love the fact that the matter is like Everett Ross is trying to talk, and it's just, they're just he's like, you don't get to speak. You say one more word, I'm gonna feed you to my children. I'm just kidding, they're vegetarians. And he's just literally the only one laughing. I was like, that's so good. It's still so good. And he's just like, oh, they're having this heartwarming moment. He's like, are you ready? Are you done? No, are you done? Are you done? So almost like, get the hell out of my place if you're done, you know? So I wonder what did ultimately change his mind about the whole situation with helping out T'Challa, because T'Challa kind of went on his own, because he's like, me and my army will not help you. But he does in the end, so it makes you wonder, is it because what T'Challa said, or was it because T'Challa was willing to do this without any help? Like aside from his family and friends, like the fact is that he was willing to do that, maybe that changed M'Baku's mind, because it's like, oh, because it's like, because initially he called T'Challa like not a good king, because once again the whole jury situation of like, oh, she runs your technology and you got this guy for a king. Obviously the Jabari tribe wasn't happy about that, so I'm wondering like now kind of looking at the person T'Challa is now, like seeing him firsthand, realizing what he's capable and willing to do for Wakanda, maybe that kind of changed his mind, or like I said, maybe what he had said before previously kind of changed his mind. But nevertheless, still probably one of the sickest scenes is the whole Korea thing, everything that kind of went down. Okoye having to wear the wig and not liking it, but kicking ass. The whole car chase scene on that front was so badass too. It's also interesting too, I really should probably remark on this, it's something I brought up when I was talking about Thor Ragnarok last week. The interesting thing that I was going to comment on while watching this is because I talked about this in Deadpool 2. I don't remember if I kept it in the video or I cut it out when I was editing it. But essentially, because I was with my sister and my nieces, I didn't want to be the asshole that was kind of like, no, I want to stay. Like my sister was asking me that I want to stay, but I'm weird about that. I'm like, no, you invited me. I feel weird if I'm making you wait on me to sit through the credits and stuff like that. So I never actually saw the mid-credit scene where he went to the UN to kind of present Wakanda, and it's like, oh, what can like a nation of farmers offer the world? And it's like a smile comes across everyone's face. And then the final scene with Bucky and Shuri, it's like I never saw either one of those scenes because I left the theaters too soon. I kind of like, no one had ever told me about it, like it wasn't like anything like whoa and crazy, but to be fair, it's like I still would have appreciated both those scenes, because I think that sets up everything going forward. For one, it makes you wonder what happens to the W'Kabi tribe when it's all said. And I mean, Kobe's tribe, you know, because him and like they did go traitor, and does that mean they get kicked out and Jabari tribe gets added in? I don't know. I know the Jabari tribe plays a role in Infinity War, but still, like, I don't know like how the infrastructure of Wakanda necessarily is now, so going forward, so I'm curious what that would be like. Also, that plant is going, I wonder, can you grow those plants back, or are they kind of one of a kind? I'd assume they're one of a kind, but I don't know. I mean, Killmonger did a crazy thing of burning all of them, so technically, like, T'Challa might be the final Black Panther potential. Like I said, I don't know. Those can probably be grown again. Maybe. They're probably very rare if you can find some seeds that survive the fire. I mean, besides the one that they gave T'Challa, maybe there's another, you know, there's some of it left that could be planted to regrow those so that future Black Panthers could exist. I think this was like my first experience with Black Panther too, in a sense. Like, I'd seen him previously in, like, I think it was season 2 of, what was it? The Incredible Iron Man. There was like a 2009 Iron Man kind of a CGI animated TV show, and I know he pops up in like early parts of the second season. I never saw all the second season, so I didn't remember, but I had no real other than that was my only experience with Black Panther. He might have popped up in other stuff. I'm trying to think even like Spider-Man stuff, did he ever pop up in? He might have popped up in Ultimate, because I feel like I might remember that, but that just might be me completely making it up, so don't take me for it, because that could easily be me thinking that we did, but he never popped up. But this is like the first time really getting to see his powers, that it is kind of like, oh, bestowed upon him by a Panther god and stuff like that. Like, it never really came up in Civil War, which is kind of interesting. Like, I keep going back to that, like how that was kind of like, oh, like I said, I feel like that helped him grow into being who he is now in the movie. Because, like I said, you got his origin stories to a certain degree. This is technically an origin story, but at the same time, not really, because like you got his introduction in Spider-Man in Civil War, much like Spider-Man. So it is kind of interesting that they are like the only superheroes so far that have been set up in someone else in a different movie and then eventually got their own movie. Everyone else is like, either they're kind of a package deal with certain movies and certain heroes, or they just get their own solo movie. It's never been like that, like it is with Black Panther and Spider-Man, which is kind of an interesting thing when you think about it in the grand scheme of the MCU. So, like I said, it is still kind of sad in the end what happens with Killmonger, because like I said, it's a situation where you kind of feel for him. I forgot about the fact is that he ended up shooting the woman I assume is his girlfriend, because Claw had her, and I guess that was kind of supposed to show you like just how motivated he was. I mean, to be fair, everything he did was to get to that point, to take the throne from T'Challa, all the people he killed. I completely forgot what all those bumps were supposed to represent on his body. It's like, oh, right, those are your kills, right? So that's kind of interesting. Kind of got a Victor Zsasz thing going on, so I thought that was kind of interesting. But yeah, it's still kind of sad that it ended the way it did. It's like, we could heal you, but for him, he's like, I'd rather die than be locked up in chains, because he knows from here point on, like if he was healed, all he'd do is locked up. Like I said, still just an amazing movie. I still gotta say, even after rewatching everything, Spider-Man Homecoming still my favorite after rewatching everything. And so I'm saying all this because this is in fact the finale. I've officially caught up, which is kind of crazy to me. I kind of didn't expect to kind of do this. I mean, I expected to do it, but it just feels weird to kind of be done at this point in time. So, like I said, this is the finale, so this was the last movie I had to kind of rewatch up to this point. So, there has been a part of me that has wondered about continuing doing this, but, you know, in different formats. Maybe I will kind of go back and rewatch older movies I haven't seen in a while that I really like, and just kind of have my thoughts about them. Or maybe older TV shows I haven't seen in a while, stuff like that, or I don't know, some rewatch things like that. I don't know, I haven't really thought it out. Like, honestly, let me know in the comments down below if you'd be interested in seeing me continue this in some other shape or form, whether it be TV shows or other movies. Let me know your thoughts and stuff. Really, that's all I want to talk about in this video. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.